The Cleveland Browns are supposed to be a proud franchise. They're supposed to represent grit, toughness, and a city that has endured decades of heartbreak. But right now, let's call it what it is. The Browns are a circus. A complete meltdown of management, leadership, and vision. And at the center of the firestorm is one name, Shedeur Sanders. A young quarterback with poise, accuracy, and charisma.
If you're fed up with the political games tearing Britain apart, now's the time to stand up. Subscribe now and join a growing community demanding truth, accountability, and leadership that actually listens. We break the stories the mainstream won't touch, and we do it for you. This is our country. Let's take it back together. Subscribe now.
Shedeur was meant to be the spark Cleveland fans had waited for. He wasn't just a player, he was a symbol. A connection to a new generation of athletes, a cultural shift, the idea that maybe, just maybe, the Browns could move beyond their tortured history and finally step into the future. And now we're hearing whispers that a rival franchise has slapped down an unprecedented $90 million offer to pry him away from Cleveland. $90 million. That's not just a contract, that's a declaration of war. And the Browns? They're panicking. They're scrambling. Because this isn't just about losing a player, this is about losing their identity, their future, their very reason to keep fans believing. So how did we get here? It starts with dysfunction, classic Browns dysfunction. Shedeur came in, lit up the field, showed flashes of brilliance that Cleveland hasn't seen in a quarterback in decades. Completion percentage over 70. QB rating over 100. Explosive play percentages that doubled the offense's ceiling. Every stat screamed, this is the guy. Every fan in the dog pound knew it. Even casual observers could see it. He had the arm, the vision, the composure under pressure. And yet, what did head coach Kevin Stefanski do? He benched him. Again and again. Despite clear evidence that the offense hummed with Shedeur under center, Stefanski clung stubbornly to his system, his hierarchy, his philosophy. It's as if the coach decided it was more important to be right than to win. More important to prove his authority than unleash his most talented weapon. That arrogance, pure, rigid arrogance, is what cracked open the door for this crisis. Because here's the reality, you don't bench a rising superstar in today's NFL without consequences. Not when players have power. Not when social media magnifies every slight. Not when endorsements and marketing empires are built around young stars. Shedeur Sanders wasn't just a quarterback, he was a brand. And when the Browns treated him like a backup, they weren't just insulting him, they were insulting everything he represented. So along comes this rival franchise. They see an opening. They see a Browns organization drowning in chaos, a coaching staff refusing to adapt, a fan base ready to riot. And they pounce. $90 million on the table. Guaranteed money. Endorsements lined up. Influence over coaching decisions. Think about that for a second. This isn't just an offer, this is a hostile takeover. This is another team saying, if Cleveland doesn't know what they've got, we'll take it. And we'll build an empire around him. And Shedeur? He hasn't said much publicly, but his silence is deafening. He's not rushing to defend the Browns. He's not reaffirming loyalty. He's pulling back, going quiet, letting his camp handle negotiations in private. That's not disinterest, it's strategy. It's leverage. And the Browns know it. That's why the front office is in full panic mode. The fans, of course, are furious. You can feel the anger radiating out of Cleveland. Fans who've stuck with this franchise through decades of losing seasons, humiliating blunders, and quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. They finally thought they had their guy. And now, thanks to a stubborn coach and a clueless front office, they're about to lose him before his prime even begins. Think about the cultural impact here. Shedeur wasn't just a player, he was a bridge between the Browns and a younger generation of fans. He was excitement, swagger, marketability. His presence boosted ticket sales, merchandise, local businesses, even the morale of a city desperate for hope. If Cleveland lets him walk, it's not just a roster move, it's an economic and cultural catastrophe. Sponsorships will vanish. Stadium seats will empty. The identity of the team will collapse. And yet, inside the organization, it's chaos. Ownership is divided. Some want to cave to Shedeur's camp, give him the starting role, build around him, and save face. Others want to double down on Stefanski's system, arguing that no player is bigger than the team. That internal tug-of-war is paralyzing the Browns at the very moment they need clarity. Every day they hesitate, that $90 million offer looks more tempting. Every day they stall, fans get angrier. Let's step back and look at the bigger picture. This isn't just about Cleveland. This is about the future of the NFL. Because what we're seeing is a seismic shift in power dynamics. Once upon a time, teams controlled players. Coaches dictated terms. Franchises told stars to get in line or get out. But now it's the players holding the cards. Shedeur Sanders, a young quarterback barely into his career, has the power to bend an entire organization to his will, or walk out the door and reshape another franchise overnight. That's player empowerment in action. And it's shaking the league. Other young stars are watching closely. They see Shadur testing his leverage, flirting with unprecedented deals, and they're taking notes. This isn't just a Browns crisis, it's a league-wide precedent. If Sanders bolts for $90 million and a seat at the coaching table, don't think for a second that other players won't demand the same. This could change how contracts are structured, how teams handle talent, how much control stars have over strategy. And the NFL isn't blind to it. League officials are monitoring every move, because the outcome here could define the next decade of negotiations, free agency battles, and franchise stability. The Browns' incompetence has turned Shedeur Sanders into a test case for the future of the league. Meanwhile, let's talk about Shadeur's camp. They're playing this brilliantly. They're not rushing, not overplaying their hand. They're keeping their cards close while feeding just enough information to stoke the flames. Reports of other teams, the Cowboys, Dolphins, Raiders, Jets, all circling, all interested, all willing to break the bank. That's not coincidence, that's strategy. Every leak, every whisper, every headline drives up his value and pressures Cleveland further. And the Browns? They look weak. They look indecisive. They look like an organization that doesn't know how to handle success when it lands in their lap. Because make no mistake, Shedeur Sanders is success. He is the blueprint for building a winning team, and instead of embracing that, the Browns fumbled it. What happens if he leaves? Let's not sugarcoat it, the Browns collapse. The revenue losses will be catastrophic. Ticket sales will crater. Sponsorships will vanish. The city, which tied its hopes to this young star, will feel betrayed. Players inside the locker room, already discontent with Stefanski's decisions, will lose faith entirely. And Cleveland's reputation as a football graveyard will be cemented for another generation. But what happens if he stays? That depends entirely on whether the Browns change. If Stefanski keeps benching him, if management refuses to give him the reins, then the resentment festers. The relationship sours. And even if he stays for now, the clock is ticking until he finds a way out. If they want to keep him, they can't just write a fat check. They have to change the culture, hand him the offense, and treat him like the cornerstone he is. And let's be honest, can you trust the Browns to do that? Their track record screams no. This is the franchise that's botched more quarterback situations than anyone can count. The franchise that finds new ways to sabotage itself every season. The franchise that somehow turns promise into disaster over and over again. In the end, the Shedeur Sanders saga is more than a contract dispute. It's a referendum on the Browns as an organization, a reflection of everything broken inside that building. A stubborn coach who won't adapt. An ownership too timid to make decisive choices. A management team blinded by ego. And now, the most exciting player they've had in years is halfway out the door. The Browns don't just need to act, they need to transform. They need to swallow their pride, fire the coach if necessary, and hand Shadur the keys. Because if they don't, he'll be gone, and with him will go not just victories, not just revenue, but the soul of the franchise. $90 million is staring Cleveland in the face. Other teams are circling like sharks. The fans are ready to explode. And Shedeur Sanders, calm, composed, holding all the cards, is sitting back and waiting. The Browns are panicking for a reason, because deep down they know the truth. If they lose Shedeur Sanders, they lose everything. The storm that has engulfed Cleveland doesn't look like it's passing anytime soon. If anything, it's growing louder, darker, and more dangerous with every passing day. And right in the middle of it all, Shedeur Sanders holds the fate of the Browns in his hands. One decision, stay or go, will decide whether this franchise claws its way back to relevance or collapses into another tragic chapter of NFL dysfunction. You can feel the desperation. The Browns aren't just panicking, they're unraveling. Ownership is calling emergency meetings. Coaches are scrambling to justify themselves. Players in the locker room are whispering, "Why isn't Shadur starting? Why are we handcuffing our best weapon?" And fans? They're past outrage. They're at the point of revolt. They're sick of waiting, sick of excuses, sick of watching their franchise sabotage itself. And now, the threat of losing Shadur, of watching him pack up and head to another city with $90 million in his pocket, is the breaking point. This isn't just about money. It never is. Yes, $90 million is staggering. It's more than a paycheck. It's generational wealth, endorsements, influence, a seat at the table in shaping a franchise's future. But what makes the offer so dangerous to Cleveland isn't the cash, it's the respect. That rival franchise is saying, "We see you, Shedeur. We value you. We're ready to build around you." Meanwhile, the Browns are still treating him like an experiment, a piece to fit into Stefanski's rigid puzzle. That's why the offer hurts so badly. It's proof that someone else sees what Cleveland refuses to admit. And here's the real kicker. Shedeur doesn't have to say a word. His silence is the loudest message of all. No tweets. No interviews. No reassurances of loyalty. Just quiet, strategic stillness. That silence terrifies the Browns because they know what it means. He's weighing his options and Cleveland isn't holding the strongest hand. Inside the locker room, the mood is tense. Veterans who've played through years of disappointment can't believe management is mishandling this so badly. Younger players look up to Shedeur, admire his calm, his focus, his natural leadership, and they're frustrated that politics is keeping him off the field. When your own players start doubting the coach, that's not just a crack in the system, that's a fracture that can't be taped over. Stefanski's decision to bench Shedeur isn't just a tactical blunder, it's a cultural disaster. He's lost the room, and when a coach loses the room, the clock starts ticking on his career. The Browns' front office knows it. That's why they're panicking. They're stuck in a tug-of-war between loyalty to Stefanski's system and the undeniable truth that Shadur Sanders is the future. And every moment they hesitate, every stubborn refusal to act, pushes Shedeur closer to the door. They're not just risking a quarterback, they're risking their franchise's very survival. Now, let's talk about what happens if he actually takes that $90 million and leaves. Picture it. Shedeur walks into another city, another stadium, another locker room, and instantly becomes the centerpiece. The face of the franchise. The guy who carries the torch. Imagine him lighting up defenses in a different uniform while Cleveland watches from the sidelines, empty seats piling up, fans drowning in regret. That isn't just a nightmare scenario, it's a death sentence for the Browns' identity. Because let's be real, Cleveland hasn't had many bright spots. The franchise has lived in the shadows of its own history, defined more by heartbreak than triumph. Bernie Kosar, a flash of glory decades ago. A playoff win here or there, always overshadowed by failure. And now, in an era where stars drive everything, ticket sales, media attention, sponsorships, community spirit, Shedeur was their shot at rewriting the story. Lose him, and the Browns are back to being the league's tragic punchline. But even if he stays, the damage is already done. How do you repair trust between a player and an organization after this? How do you convince Shedeur that Cleveland is truly committed to him after publicly humiliating him by keeping him on the bench? Trust, once broken, doesn't just snap back into place. It lingers, it festers. And unless the Browns make a dramatic move, firing Stefanski, reshaping the offense, giving Shedeur the reins, this crisis will keep boiling until it explodes again. And the fans, oh the fans, are watching every move. Cleveland fans are some of the most loyal in the NFL, but loyalty has limits. You can only ask a city to endure so much heartbreak before they start tuning out. Shedeur was hope. Shedeur was the reason people showed up, the reason kids wore jerseys, the reason downtown businesses buzzed on Sundays. If the Browns blow this, if they let him walk, it's not just about losing games. It's about losing a city's heart. Zoom out even further, and this becomes bigger than Cleveland. This is about the evolution of the NFL itself. Player empowerment is here, and Shadur Sanders is the living proof. The days of players being silenced, told to wait their turn, told to fit the system, are fading. Today's stars know their worth, and they're not afraid to leverage it. Shadeur's potential move is a signal to every rising talent in the league. If your team doesn't value you, there's always someone else who will. That's not just a shift, it's a revolution. And the NFL is terrified. Because if Shedeur sets this precedent, if a young quarterback can demand $90 million endorsements and influence over coaching, then what's next? How do franchises maintain control when stars can essentially dictate terms? The Browns' incompetence has accidentally opened Pandora's box, and now the entire league is scrambling to prepare for the fallout. The beauty of it, though, is that Shedeur hasn't had to posture, hasn't had to stir the pot. His play speaks for itself. The stats don't lie. Over 70% completion. A quarterback rating soaring over 100. Explosive play percentages that double the offense's output. He's not hype, he's production. And in the NFL, production is power. Meanwhile, Kevin Stefanski is doubling down. Still talking about system. Still defending his decisions. Still pretending like this is business as usual. But let's be honest, his days are numbered. When a coach's ego gets in the way of winning, when his philosophy becomes more important than results, the writing is on the wall. And in this case, Stefanski's writing it himself in big, bold letters. The Browns can either cling to him and watch their franchise quarterback leave, or cut him loose and rebuild trust with Shedeur. It's that simple. Ownership has to decide. Do they want to be remembered as the front office that lost Shedeur Sanders? Do they want to be the franchise that let ego and incompetence drive away the future? Or do they want to finally, make the bold decision to put talent first, to adapt, to embrace the reality staring them in the face? Because the clock is ticking. That $90 million offer isn't going away. Other teams are circling, hungry, ready to swoop. Every day Cleveland hesitates, the balance tips further away. And if they lose him, if they watch Shadur walk out the door, they won't just regret it, they'll never recover. This is bigger than football. This is about pride. It's about a city that's been laughed at for too long, given too many broken promises, left with too many empty Sundays. Shedeur Sanders could have been the turning point, the chapter where the Browns finally got it right. But right now it looks like just another chapter in the same old story: arrogance, dysfunction, collapse. So here's the truth: the Browns are standing at the edge of a cliff. On one side, salvation, build around Shadur, hand him the keys, transform the franchise. On the other side, oblivion, lose him, lose the fans, lose the future. There is no middle ground, no hedging, no safe option. And as the storm rages on, Shedeur Sanders doesn't need to scream, doesn't need to fight, doesn't need to beg. All he has to do is wait. Because the Browns are already tearing themselves apart. In the end, history will remember this moment as the turning point. Either Cleveland finally woke up or they lost everything. And right now, with panic spreading through the organization, the future looks grim. For Shadur, the power is his. For the Browns, the panic is real. And for the fans? It's déjà vu all over again, watching a franchise find a way to ruin the best thing that's happened to them in years. The panic inside Cleveland has reached fever pitch. You can practically smell the fear coming off the walls of Berea. Front office executives are pacing the halls, ownership is holding late-night calls, and Kevin Stefanski is still pretending like nothing's wrong, as if a $90 million bombshell hasn't just been dropped on his doorstep. But the truth is unavoidable. The Browns are staring down the biggest organizational crisis in modern NFL history, and they are not handling it well. Fans know it. They see the writing on the wall. They're angry, restless, ready to storm the gates if their franchise manages to screw this up. Because this isn't just about losing a quarterback, it's about losing credibility. How many times has Cleveland been promised a savior, only to watch the dream evaporate? How many jerseys have been bought with hope, only to end up in the bargain bin a season later? And now, just when they've finally got someone who looks like the real deal, someone who could change the trajectory of the entire franchise, management is fumbling it away. Shedeur Sanders represents more than football. He represents an identity shift, a chance to redefine what the Browns are and what they could be. He's young, dynamic, marketable, and most importantly, he produces results on the field. He is everything Cleveland has been searching for since the franchise's rebirth. But instead of embracing him, instead of building around him, this team is tying itself in knots with outdated philosophy and fragile egos. And here's the part that stings most. Rival franchises know it. They smell blood in the water. They see Cleveland's dysfunction and they're circling like sharks. That $90 million deal wasn't random, it was calculated. It was designed to exploit the Browns' weakness, to tempt Shadur with not just money but with respect, influence, and the chance to be treated like the cornerstone he already is. That's the kind of opportunity that can make a young star say, "Why stay here and fight a losing battle when I can go somewhere that actually values me?" Cleveland's leadership is boxed into a corner. Fire Stefanski, admit failure, and hand Shadur the keys, or cling to stubborn pride and watch their future walk out the door. It's that stark, that simple. And yet the hesitation, the indecision, the paralysis continues. Every second they drag their feet, the offer across the table grows more attractive. The fans are watching. The league is watching. And Shedeur Sanders, calm and collected, is letting the chaos swirl around him while holding all the cards. The Browns thought they were in control. They thought they could dictate his role, his future, his value. But the reality is brutal. Shadur is the one in control and Cleveland is the one begging. If they lose him, they don't just lose a quarterback. They lose the heart of their franchise. And deep down, every Browns fan knows it. That's why the panic feels like doom. The tension in Cleveland has turned into a full-blown standoff, and you can almost feel the walls closing in on the franchise. Fans are screaming for answers. The media is circling like vultures. and ownership is frozen in headlights while the biggest decision in modern Browns history dangles in front of them. Shedeur Sanders isn't just holding a contract offer, he's holding the fate of the city in his hands. What makes this moment so dramatic is that everyone knows exactly how high the stakes are. If Shadur walks, it's not just another quarterback gone, it's a symbol of Cleveland failing yet again to recognize greatness when it's right in front of them. This isn't the heartbreak of a dropped pass or a blown draft pick. This would be an organizational betrayal, a message to the fans that no matter how much they scream, the people in charge still don't get it. And then there's Stefanski. Let's not sugarcoat it. His refusal to start Shadur has been the gasoline on this fire. Every time Sanders was benched, every time the offense sputtered without him, every time the fans roared for him only to be ignored, it was a slap in the face. Not just to Shadur but to everyone who could see the obvious. Stefanski's system has become a straitjacket, and his stubbornness has put the franchise on the edge of disaster. A coach should elevate his talent, not bury it. Yet here we are, with a generational quarterback dangling over the edge of a cliff because the head coach couldn't swallow his pride. Meanwhile, Shadur doesn't need to say a word. His silence is a weapon sharper than any press conference. While Cleveland spins in chaos, while fans rage and ownership stumbles, he sits calm, composed, knowing the entire NFL is watching. Other franchises are ready to open the vault for him, roll out the red carpet, and make him the face of their team. He knows his worth, and more importantly, he knows Cleveland has already proven they don't. And the fans? God, the fans. They're standing in the cold, hearts in their throats, watching the possibility of salvation slip away. They've been through too much. Endless losing seasons, false dawns, quarterbacks treated like disposable parts. Shadur was supposed to be different. He was supposed to be the one. And now, thanks to incompetence and arrogance, the dream is turning into another nightmare. The Browns are out of time. Either they hand Shadur the reins, now today, or they prepare to watch him take that $90 million offer and walk out the door. And if that happens, Cleveland won't just lose a quarterback. They'll lose their future. They'll lose their fans. They'll lose the very soul of the franchise. The truth is brutal but simple. Shedeur Sanders holds all the power and the Browns are on their knees.